you see my background? Did it work?
It did.
Okay, yay! I got it in there in time. All right, so we have a whole group of libraries to introduce who now have beautiful, fabulous, and fly catalogs with Aspen Discovery. So everyone join me in welcoming R.H. Johnson Library in Arizona, Roseville in California, Rutherford County in Tennessee, Pennsylvania Institute of Technology, the City of Corvallis in Oregon, and the Nevada Library Collaborative. Yay! And that's it. I think it's Mark again next.
Yeah, thanks, Miranda. So we do have some updates to the release schedule. So the upcoming July release, we do have a few people out on vacation. Right after that is normally scheduled to deploy. So normally that would deploy the evening of Tuesday, July 18th. But we have people out on vacation the 19th, and we want to make sure that like releases go smoothly and stuff. So we do want to make sure that in the event anything comes up for those couple of days right after release, that we have everybody on deck to be able to look at anything as needed. We certainly don't expect anything. But instead of deploying on the 18th, we are going to move that date up 2 days, and we will deploy the evening of July 16th, which means it will be live the morning of July 17th. So you get all of this cool new functionality a little bit early. And yeah, we're again excited to see what everybody does. So, and then I can hand it over to Brian to talk about the community meeting. Brian?
Yeah, the next community meeting is July 18th at 10 Central. And in the community meeting, I'm sorry, in the community Slack channel, if you scroll up to the very top, you can see all the agendas. And when I'm done talking here, I will also post a link to the July agenda in the chat.
Thanks so much, Brian. And the community meeting is, I don't want to say some meetings are more important than others, but that's where everyone gets together. We also do have some smaller meetings for individual groups of interest with Aspen. For our ILS groups, we have an Evergreen, Polaris, and Symphony meeting coming up in the middle of July, and those dates are in your agenda. There's also a link in your agenda to where you can find the links to join those meetings. We don't post them here because there's weird things with time zones. All of our calendars are in that link to the other Aspen meeting on the agenda. We do have a cataloging and grouped works meeting as well. And that one we're going to cancel for July. We have a little bit of a backlog of work and some things we need to discuss at the community meeting. We'll be talking about that more in a minute. But I will be canceling that meeting for July, and we will resume again in August. So that is it for the other Aspen meetings, and we can get right on to talking about what we're planning next. So I'm going to go ahead and share my screen. Okay, and there is a link to this in the agenda as well. I know sometimes the text on this gets a little small, so you can always take advantage of that link. So release review for 2307. This is where we talk about what we said we were going to do and then what we actually got done during the release, just for transparency as to what we're working on. You heard Mark mention a number of times the InReach integration. I will say that this is 99% done. I went ahead and marked it as done. We have a little bit more testing to do because we're testing an ILL system. To be sure that it works, we need to actually do it with ILLs. And as you know, ILLs take time to transfer. So we know it's working with Sierra. We're waiting for some confirmation on Koha, but we believe that the work that we have to do on InReach is either completely done or very, very, very close to it. So that's awesome. We've also had a big focus on implementation needs. And you could see with the list that Miranda shared with you, the number of implementations we've been doing, there's always something that we got to do for a little bit for everyone. So that took up a good amount of time. But most of those things are good for everyone, but it's just something that we do during implementations. High priority bugs and partner priorities. Anyone who's been to any of these meetings know that those are always on the list. Hopefully, noticing things like Square. I don't know if you noticed, but when Mark shared his screen, there were 7 ticket numbers next to that. Lots of partners were wanting Square, and just number of partners is one of the ways that we help determine that. But we do also, of course, look at your partner priorities, and we're doing the best we can to juggle all of those needs, and we always make sure we get some done. We had a stretch goal to replace those default icons with custom icons and do some more of that cover work. And we got a good amount of that done. You saw Mark show some of that. We have some more coming to allow you to replace some default icons within Aspen. So you can expect a little bit more of that next release. But we did, like you could see, get some of that done. And we have one extra thing that Mark touched on that we decided we were going to go ahead and do. And that is that external self-registration, the APIs to support that. We've been working closely with Overdrive on this, and this is to enhance what they are, how the program, the instant digital card program that Overdrive already has, where patrons can get a card that is not actually added to the ILS. I think everybody recognizes that having patrons that are not in the ILS causes several problems for libraries. So this is really about providing APIs to be able to meet patrons where they are as far as registration. And if you want to, again, nothing you have to do, but if you want to, patrons can then register where they're accessing materials, get into the ILS, and kind of, if it's their gateway drug to using the library, then that's what it is, and we can track them the way that we want to. And also, like Mark said, they're not the only ones that have brought this up with us. So that is some more work that we did. For the next release, this is what we've got on deck. A few releases ago, or a few Aspen gatherings ago, we talked to you about the LIDA barcode scan and the Discover search integration. If you recall, this is where we're going to be combining the Discover and search pages within LIDA to the same page. So you will have those browse categories, and you will also have a search box, kind of like what you see in the Aspen Discovery interface. The goal, again, is to make those two user experiences feel as similar as possible. We'll also be adding the ability first to scan barcodes for searching. So if you're at a bookstore, at a friend's house, you can scan that barcode on the back of the book and have that come right up in LIDA. And then you can also scan your library card when you want to log in. If you happen to have it with you or don't have your number memorized like the power users, you can scan your barcode and then not have to type that in. Another thing that we've added is some updates to the event registration workflow. A few releases ago, we added, along with our Communico integration, some support for registering for events. And we've just uncovered a few workflows and a few things that we want to make adjustments to so that libraries have some choice on whether or not they require registration, whether or not patrons have to be logged into Aspen to express interest or to even register for an event. So the libraries that put in tickets on that, I'm working with them. If you want to review what we're talking about doing for that, please let me know very soon. I'm getting those comments now if you just hadn't put a ticket in on it. And I will make sure that you get a chance to review that and comment on it. Replacing default icons with custom icons. This is the continuation of the work that I said was still in progress last time. A lot of this work, just to give you a heads up, is within the Explore More bar, those default icons that appear in the Explore More bar. We're going to be giving you the option to change those out to your own icons as well. We still have a good number of partners in implementation, so I went ahead and added that focus on implementation needs here again, because I know that we're going to have some work on that. We just had a whole bunch coming in all at once. And always high priority bugs and partner priorities. Our stretch feature this month is using that scan the barcode for checkout. I don't know if we'll get a chance to kind of start on this. This is like I said, our stretch goal. Sometimes we get to them, sometimes we don't. But I do like for you to know what our plans are to work on if we have the time. Any questions on that before I move on? All righty. You can always post them in the chat, and I will definitely circle back to them. I have a few more things to chat about before I turn the mic back over. Brian earlier talked about the community meetings, and something that I'm going to put on the agenda for that meeting that I would like to talk with all of you about is what the next big sort of community project should be for Aspen. In that meeting, we've been doing a lot of dreaming. We've been doing a lot of thinking about what would it be amazing if Aspen did. And we kind of have I would say 3 things that have come up multiple times and we've talked about and maybe we've done a little bit of work on, but I think it'd be good for us as a community to prioritize which of these things you want. So what I'm going to do is introduce these ideas today because I really want you to come to the community meeting to talk to us about it. So this will tell you what we're going to talk about. If you cannot make it to that meeting, reach out to Brian and send him your comments. You can send them to me either way so that your voice can be heard in this discussion. But I want to make sure that you're aware of what we're considering. But again, due to the time constraints in this meeting, we do want to make sure that this is that conversation around what we should do and questions and really digging into the details of these happens at that community meeting. Okay, so on to community idea number 1 is more information for each grouped work. The first thing the community said they wanted here was those book covers for each individual edition, and we got that done. Do we want to do more on this next? Because that was kind of an easy thing to do. Do we want to do things that are a little bit harder? So what this looks like is displaying some additional contributors. So do we want to show the illustrator, the narrator, more things to help people understand the difference between these editions? Indicators for things like abridged works or making sure that the abridged work isn't the top one in the list. So like a patron isn't accidentally sent the abridged work. Do we want to make sure that graphic novels are always ungrouped from the work they're derived from? So right now, we kind of have to do some fancy work to get those to not combine when they have the same author title. Do we want to just make that an automatic feature of Aspen? The last one depends on idea number 2 that I'll talk about obviously next, but it is more related to this, and that's including within those grouped work links showing related works. So if you are looking at the grouped work for the book, we'll say, hey, we also have the movie. Or, hey, did you know there's a graphic novel related to this? Or, hey, we offer this in these 2 other languages. So that actually requires the community content server, which is idea number 2. So we'll just swing right into idea number 2. I promise I'll pause at the end of this for any questions. So if you have them, either post them in the chat or get ready to unmute. So community idea number 2 is more with the community content server, the ability to share grouped works. So all of you that do the manual grouping and ungrouping, we could put those into the community content server and then everyone could benefit from them. And the same thing with those related works that I was just talking about. When you're looking at the book, you see the movie, the language, etc. If you're not familiar with the community content server, this is what we built a few releases ago that let you share themes and that let you share the languages are shared automatically. It's continuing that work. So again, manual record groupings could be across all libraries, related works. And then we've already had a conversation within that Aspen catalogers group that they would be the group that would be responsible for determining the standards and how we kind of administer what should and should not be grouped. That's not going to be something Bywater necessarily does. That's something that that community, that cataloger group would do and say, this is what counts and this is what doesn't count for a grouped work or a related work. And last idea that, again, want you to prioritize what you think is best for us to work on next is better emails from Aspen. This has come up a few times, well, a couple times at the meeting and then a bunch within tickets. We did some related work within LIDA with our notifications, but what we're really talking about here is building more of an email builder for Aspen. It would be based on what Aspen's web builder does. So if you know how web builder works, you could build emails the same way. You would be able to email patrons a list of new titles that match your saved searches, the same way with the LIDA notifications. Create like custom emails to email to specific patron groups, again, paralleling what we have in LIDA for notifications. The last one would be longer and more work, and this is really what makes it, other than building the email builder itself, this is what really makes it a lot of work, is creating custom email for account notices. And this is one of those things where it'd be work per ILS, and it is a bigger project, but also if you can create these beautiful custom emails for all of those notices, the most frequent email communication that we have with patrons, that would be fantastic. So I'm gonna pause and see if anyone has any questions on this or comments before moving on. Where are my people today, man? I'm not used to not having questions. Brian, I saw you on mute. Anything to add there?
I forgot to mute when I was speaking before. I was just muting.
Oh, okay.
So I can assure you, I have thoughts about all of this. Let's make a change and then we'll see how it goes.
Cool. So again, the conversation will happen on July 8th. Oh, I think I have a slide on this. July 18th, 11 a.m. Eastern, 8 Pacific. Brian will be there leading that. Like, just come talk, give us your opinions. We want all of your opinions. And then we can build all these things, but we have to build them, ideally one at a time so that we can get them done. And just thank you to the community for sharing all of these ideas. It's so exciting. It's so much fun. Those meetings are so much fun. Listening to everyone dream about what they want for Aspen. Okay, last thing before I can hand the mic over. Mark and I were at ALA along with a number of other people, Bill from Bywater, and we got a chance to talk to a lot of our library partners. And one of the things that we heard both from our partners and just kind of across the board is that they wished vendors would collaborate more with each other. And I wish that too. And it's also, this type of collaboration is crucial to what we do with Aspen because we bring all of these resources together. So I just wanted to share that we do that and give you a few of the highlights from the conversations that Mark and I and others had with vendors at ALA. So you can see the vendors that we ended up meeting with at the bottom there. But again, this isn't everything that we talked about, but it's just the themes that were either like really big themes or themes that came up across multiple vendors. The first one is, what librarian curated content can Aspen use from other platforms? So this is, we know Overdrive has lists, and some of those lists might be created by, and it's not just Overdrive, it's Hoopla, it's Ingram, it's a lot of these platforms that you see at the bottom might have librarian curated content from their own librarians. What of that content can Aspen have access to so that you could pull it into Aspen? So if they have read-alikes for a specific title, how can we create an API to reuse that content so that no matter where it's created, the patron can see that? And everyone was excited about this idea. Like I said, it's like something was in the air and it just kept coming up. So again, that would be typically maybe created outside in that platform, but the same way we pull in the New York Times book lists right now, we would say you have the option to pull in certain lists from these other content providers that are already creating this good content. So it's just extra content for your catalog, and like anything else, all of that is always optional. The second is something that Mark talked about and I talked about. How can patrons get a real library card outside of Aspen and the library website? That's that integration that we're starting with Overdrive, but they were not the only ones to ask about this. We know our patrons use these other platforms. Let's use it as a reason to get them a library card and make sure they are getting communication on all the other awesome things that libraries do. The other one is an idea that came up from one of our libraries and prompted some conversations is, can we include titles that the library doesn't own already in the catalog? So I know that some of our e-content vendors do this, where you can, again, you can always turn these things off. You don't have to enable these, but you can see titles that the library doesn't own. And it's essentially like a buy on demand. Patron-driven acquisitions. It has a couple different names. And one of the things that we're looking at is this provides better service to patrons. It makes sure that your titles are circling at least once. And the really interesting thing is this might be cheaper than ILL for libraries. It might actually be cheaper to buy a title and send it to the patron and then put it in the catalog than to pay all of the staff time and all of the postage and everything else that's involved with ILL. So very early stages, but just ideas that we're exploring. If you have thoughts on any of these, you can always reach out. You can always put whatever you want on the agenda for the community meeting. I like to share the conversations that we're having and assure you that, yeah, like we consider our vendor partnerships really important, and we want to keep talking about those, because all those partnerships are what makes Aspen awesome. One of the things that makes Aspen awesome. Any questions on that before I turn this back over? All right. I will then hand it over to Cal to talk about our outreach updates.
Hi, everyone. Elise is not with us today. She usually updates us on all the Bywater outreach news, so I am taking her place today. But she just wanted to let everyone know that we are going to be at the American Association of Law Libraries Conference. I don't know how many law libraries we have in here today, if any, but she just wanted to say that we're going to be in Boston, July 15th to 18th. I think that's our next big conference coming up. And she also just wanted to promote our community give back program, which, if you don't know, we award a library every month $500. There's just a short form that you fill out letting us know what you're going to be using that money for. But we've been doing this for about 2 years, and it's been really rewarding, I think, for everyone. Just some of those things that maybe your friends of the libraries can't cover, or your funding can't cover, that maybe we can step in and help support. So maybe it's like a special program or a special collection that you want to invest in. There's been a lot of really cool things that we've been able to help libraries with. So if you have something like that, a special project or something that you're looking to fund, definitely encourage you to apply. And then we award a different library every month. And then also every month we recognize a librarian of the month from one of our partner libraries. So it's a great way to just it doesn't have to be a librarian either. It's anybody on your staff that relates, gives back to your library in some way. So we're always looking for people to be recognized. So if you have somebody in mind that you want to recommend for that Librarian of the Month program, they get a pretty sweet plaque, they get their picture taken, they get featured in our newsletter, and also just all the good warm fuzzy kudos. So we're always looking to recognize the people behind all the work and the libraries that we support. So that's all I have for that, and I think we're at open time. So if anyone has anything they would like to discuss, the floor is yours. Maybe we all get 20 minutes back in our day today. Either way. Does anyone else on the Bywater team have anything that they want to talk about? All right, well, we can do the countdown. We can start waving. We could wrap this one up for July. We'll have more information out about the release. The Help Center will be updated. We're really excited about all the new features that we have to bring to you all. We'll see you soon.